Namaste. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
Good
Good morning, everybody.
morning,
Momo,
Bante.
good morning.
Brian.
Mm. Good morning, Lakshmi.
Morning, Bante.
Good morning. Joanne, good morning. Joanna, Anuma, good morning. Okay.
Ready.
So you are ready? Let us begin with metta. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or coming to birth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere. Neither from anger nor ill will should anyone wish harm to another. As a mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this metta thought in our as background, we start our mindfulness practice and we pay total, undivided, non-verbal attention to our breathing. Let the breath flow in and out. We don't try to control breath, manipulate breath, or hold breath, as this is not breathing exercise, but using breath as a tool to open our insight and pay attention to the breath to see it exactly as it is, rising, falling. We notice the breath touching our nostrils. As breath goes in, we experience the expansion of our lower abdominal area and chest area. Then we notice breath leaving our body, contracting our lower abdomen, chest area, and leaving our nostrils. As we breathe in and out, this repeats themselves exactly as they are. As we breathe in and out, we notice or we feel the breath that arouses our perception. So we perceive the breath that arouses our thought, that is our intention, and we notice that arising, and consciousness is always there, that also flows with everything else. As we breathe out, the same thing happens, feeling, perceptions, thought, and consciousness. These are what we repeatedly call 5 aggregates. Form, breath represents the form, and then feeling, perceptions, thought, and consciousness. As we breathe in and out, they also rise and fall. And this rising and falling repeat over and over again. And then we notice it without verbalizing, which is sometimes difficult for many people. But even if it is difficult, try not to verbalize. And then when we see this happening again and again, the breath relaxes, the body relaxes, and the mind relaxes by themselves. We don't have to do anything to relax them. All we have to do is not verbalize. When we verbalize, mind gets stimulated. When mind gets stimulated, brain stimulated, then we cannot stop thoughts, words, like running like a stream. All kind of thoughts can flood the mind. And when we don't do that, the breath relaxes, the body relaxes, and mind relaxes. With this relaxed state of mind, we also do one more thing, that we don't try to hold on to anything. No desire to keep anything because it is a futile desire. And then also, since we relax body, mind, and feel the breath, in the relaxed state of mind, rigidity, uptightness fades away, and feeling of metta takes its place. And then compassion arises without agitation, excitement, restless, and worry. Compassion arises for all living beings that suffer. And then our sleepiness and drowsiness fades away as the body and mind especially is reinforced with this experience to practice. Energy arises. This is a very wholesome, positive energy. It is not physical agitation or excitement or restlessness, but with very calm, relaxed, peaceful energy. Then sleepiness and drowsiness fades away. And then we see all this happening in us. This is very nature of Dhamma, that things arise naturally and pass away. And seeing this, we have confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Confidence arises from understanding. The Pali word is avijja pasada. We are pleased with understanding. When that happens, joy arises. When joy arises, it leads to happiness. When we gain happiness, mind becomes very calm, relaxed, even more peaceful. And then happiness arises. Happy state of mind is leading to concentration. When concentration arises, we still remain very alert, agile, not falling asleep. Concentration in real sense is not a state of sleep, but a state of fully awake. With this concentrated mind, we see everything is changing in the subtlest way. So we noticing this natural development, we continue our practice and then see for ourselves how much we gain from this practice. dukkha pattaca nidukkha bhaya pattaca nibbhaya soka pattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. May all beings be. This is our very sincere wish, metta wish. With this metta in mind, let us continue the rest of our today's talk. I think you all remember we started talking on the qualities of Dhamma. We started saying Swakata. Day before yesterday we spoke on that part of the Dhamma, Swakata, well expounded. Today I want to take up the next word, Samditthiko. Samditthiko is seeing directly or directly visible. One day I take examples only from texts. One example is that when we practice meditation, we come to Dhamma Anupassana, seeing Dhamma in Satipatthana Sutta. If you remember, there we are instructed to be mindful of Dhamma in 5 hindrances. Even before that, when we practice mindfulness of feelings, we see this Dhamma directly. Mindfulness of feeling says, when sukhang vedanang vedyamano, sukhang vedanang vedyamiti pajanati, when pleasant feeling is felt, we notice that pleasant feeling is there. Where is this pleasant feeling? Pleasant feeling is in us. Pleasant feeling arises, pleasant feeling continues, and pleasant feeling fades away. That is rising pleasant feeling and exists, altering, and then passes away. This is Dhamma phenomenon, although we call it feeling, but this is directly visible nature, and we directly notice it. And similarly, when unpleasant feeling arises, we feel unpleasantness. We see unpleasantness is altering, and unpleasantness fades away. And this is directly visible nature of Dhamma. When the neutral feeling arises, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling, we notice that feeling arising. We notice that feeling altering, changing, and that feeling fades away. This is visible, directly visible nature of Dhamma. And this is how we see entire Dhamma. Hindrances, in the hindrances section, Buddha says, Santang va ajjatang kama chandang attime ajjatang kama chandoti pajanati. When sense desire arises in the mind, then we know that this is sense desire. When sense desire alters and fades away, we know that the sense desire arises and fades away. Like this, all the hindrances, all the fetters, all of them arise, alter, and pass away. And this we see every time we meditate. And another, if you meditate very honestly, sincerely, this is what you will see. And in other discourse, many discourses, Buddha mentioned this, the same thing in this discourse called, there was a person called, he is a wanderer. In the time of the Buddha, there were all kind of ascetics. Some are called wanderer, traveling, ascetics going from place to place. His name was Molya Sivaka. He approached the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talks, he sat down on one side and said to the Buddha, directly visible Dhamma, directly visible Dhamma. In what way, Bhante, is directly visible Dhamma? Immediately inviting one to come and see, applicable to be personally realized by the wise. He gave all the 6 qualities. So Buddha picked the first one or the second, and he asked him, Sivaka, I'll ask you this question. This is a very effective way of teaching Dhamma. Asking people questions for them to think. So Buddha questioned this Molya Sivaka and said, ask him to answer this question as he has, as you fit. What do you think, Sivaka? When there is greed within you, do you know there is greed within me? And when there is no greed within you, do you know there is no greed within me? Just like in Satipatthana Sutta, in Nivarana, hindrance section, in that discourse, Buddha asked, when greed is in us, we know that greed is there. When greed is not there, we know that greed is not there. So when Buddha asked, when there is greed, do you know that there is greed in you? When there is no greed, do you know that there is no greed in you? Then he said, yes, Bhante. Since Sevaka, when there is greed within you, you know there is greed within me. And when there is no greed within you, you know there is no greed within me. In this way, the Dhamma is directly visible. Dhamma is directly visible. The, you don't have to go to a library, open all the books, and find directly visible Dhamma in those books. Directly visible Dhamma you can see in your personal experience. So, similarly, when there is hatred in you, do you know that there is hatred within you? When there is no hatred within you, do you know that there is no hatred within you? Yes, Venerable Sir. When delusion is in you, do you know that there is delusion in you? Yes. When there is no delusion in you, you know that there is no delusion in you? Yes. And when a state connected with greed within you, a state connected with hatred within you, a state connected with delusion within you, do you know there is a state connected with delusion within me? The state means the Dhamma. The word state is, Dhamma is translated into English in this section as the state. Greed is a state, greed is a Dhamma. What Dhamma is that? Unwholesome Dhamma. Hatred is Dhamma. What Dhamma is that? Unwholesome Dhamma. Delusion is Dhamma, unwholesome Dhamma. And when there is no state connected with greed, hatred, and delusion, that state, that statement, that's Dhamma, that nature, that fact, that truth. Here, Dhamma means the truth, fact, and nature. When this is there, you know that they are there. When they are not there, you know that they are not there. So you don't have to ask your mother, father, brother, sister, friend, teacher, or neighbor, country, and so on and so forth, your psychotherapist, psychologist, philosopher, doctor. You don't have to ask this question. They can diagnose various other things. But the Dhamma, you don't ask them. When you go to a doctor, you don't ask the doctor to see whether draw your blood and ask, when you go back and ask the results, ask, you cannot ask, do you find any anger in this blood, any hatred? No. You experience it then and there as it arises. You experience it and you know that. When it fades away, you experience it and you know that. So, so the Buddha said, since Sivaka, when there is a state connected with delusion with you, you know there is a state connected with delusion. State here means a Dhamma. There is Dhamma, this mental state, this nature is with greed, hatred and delusion. When this state or this nature, this moment, this mind is free from greed, hatred and delusion, you know there is no greed, hatred and delusion. Then another place, I simply quote the Buddha's teaching from discourses like Anguttara Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, and so forth. Again, another person went to the Buddha and asked, what is directly visible? Master Gautama, he is not Buddha's disciple, and he was a visitor, and asked the same question. Buddha gave similar reply. When he asked, when there is lust within you, do you know there is lust within me? When there is no lust within you, do you know that there is no lust within you? So he knows, he has to say, yes, when there is lust within me, I know that there is lust. And this conversation went on like this with these people. And another place, this you find in Anguttara Nikaya. Then another place you can see the same answer to the same question is given. Then another monk called Upavana, Venerable Upavana approached the Blessed One and said to him, Venerable Sir, it is said the directly visible Dhamma, in what way, Venerable Sir, is the Dhamma is divisible? Buddha said, here Upavana, having seen form with the eye, a bhikkhu experiences form as well as lust for the form. Here Buddha used the word bhikkhu, and this happened not only to a bhikkhu, this happened to bhikkhunis, this happened to upasaka, this happened to upasika, this happened to a child, this happened to an adult, this happened to an old people, young people. Any person can experience this. What is that? When the eyes, visual objects are met, the lust can arise for the form. Then he understands that lust for form exists internally. Thus, there is in me lust for forms internally. Since that is so, Upavana Buddha asked that Dhamma is directly visible, and immediately effective. And he gave all the 6 qualities. I will take only one of them today. Directly visible nature. And Buddha asked Upavana again, having heard sound, lust can arise, and then this can fade away. Then the person knows that that lust faded away. All one has to do is to pay mindful attention, undivided attention. When we smell something, greed can arise if the order is very pleasant. As it arises, we know that there is greed for that particular smell arisen in me. When we hate certain food, a certain taste, we know that dislike, anger, disappointment arises in me. When we touch something, greed or lust arises in our mind. That instant, we know that lust is arisen in me. When we think of an object, a Dhamma previously recorded, something, if it is pleasant, greed or lust arises in us. That instant, immediately, very quickly. So, Buddha said, Upavana, if a bhikkhu experiences the form without experiencing lust for the form, he understands that lust for form does not exist internally. Thus, there is no in me, no lust for form internally. That is possible. When we see an object, greed or lust does not arise in us. We just see the object and we know that. When hatred arises when we see an object, when we do not do not have hatred in us, we know that there is no hatred in us. When delusion does not arise in us, when we see an object, we know that there is no delusion. Similarly, when we hear a sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought, when they arise in us, along with those sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought, greed, hatred, or delusion do not arise in us. We know that there is no greed, hatred, and delusion arisen in us due to this sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought. We know that. This is what is called directly visible. Directly visible. This is the quality of Dhamma. Friends, we respect the Dhamma. We respect Dhamma. This I mentioned the other day. When we respect the Dhamma, we do not pay respect externally, we respect this very truth. Respecting means we accept this as exactly it is. That is the respect. Dhamma we experience directly is not anything artificial or something imposed on us, but it happens in us, in our mind, and we know that this is there, this particular state, particular Dhamma, this particular truth exists in us. And this is the nature of Dhamma. You will see, friends, this is a very profound, meaningful message of Dhamma we got to remember. Anytime you meditate, you will see this Dhamma directly in you. Don't ask any teacher, don't go to teacher and ask, sir, do I have anger in me? Venerable said, do I have hatred in me? Do I have lust in me? No. Don't ask your meditation teacher. Don't ask your friend, your husband, your wife, your brother and sister and mother and father. Always look at you, in you, to see how the Dhamma directly you can see. You can see this Dhamma directly in you. So, this is where we have to learn to be more owner of our karma. We can, that is why the Buddha said, we repeat this many times, and I won't repeat it again. Don't think of the past, don't think of the future, but see what is happening now in you. You can see how you create suffering in you right now. You create suffering. You here means this. You let this happen in you, and you do not pay attention to this very truth happening in you. When we say this, sometimes some people think, well, this is not practical. The practical way is to have a good dream. Have a dream. Have a dream to become such and such a big, rich millionaire. Have a dream to have a dream to be a lawyer, doctor, businessman, and this. You have a whole list of things in your mind, in your dream. You keep dreaming all those things, and here under you, in you, something is undermining your peace and happiness. Something is happening right now. This moment you are creating suffering, and you are planning for the future, you are dreaming for the future. So Buddha said, don't do that. Eventually you will build up your suffering, and you may not achieve your dream. Your dream may not come true, and you build up your suffering, increase your suffering. And therefore, Buddha's advice is, let the future take care of itself, but take care of now. You take care of what is happening now, here and now. Directly we see the Dhamma directly in you. And then every time you directly see the Dhamma in you, you take care of the Dhamma and that Dhamma takes care of you. And you always will live a very peaceful and happy life. So this directly visible nature of Dhamma, you don't find anywhere else. I cannot give you, Buddha cannot give us direct, even the Buddha cannot give this to us. Buddha said, this is how it happens. See directly. The shortest cut is to see within yourself. Shortest cut. And all other zigzag ways you learn from elsewhere. But if you want to see Dhamma directly, look at you. Look at your mind. Look at this moment. While I am talking this moment, look at you. And this is the Dhamma that we want to learn and practice. Friends, this is the second quality of Dhamma. First was Swakata Dhamma, well expounded. It can never fault, never fail you. Second is directly visible. Also, you will never fail. You will never have any doubt. In my everyday Dhamma meditation instructions, I say doubt fades away when we see the truth in us. When we gain concentration, we see this in a very subtlest changes taking place in us. And that is the nature of Dhamma. Directly we can see ourselves. Directly we can see Dhamma in us operating right now. With this, friends, I want to wind down our morning talk. And Wednesday, I will start the third quality of Dhamma. You may read that. You may read any Dhamma book, Anguttara Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, and so forth, Digha Nikaya, and you will find the description of the Dhamma in this way. No other way you know the Dhamma so clearly. And I pick only few examples from here and there in order to open your eyes, to stimulate your thinking and investigate in Dhamma, so that you will see Dhamma even more clearly. We started with metta and want to wind down with metta. We want to wish all those who are suffering be free from suffering, and those who are in hospitals taken care of by very compassionate doctors, nurses, and hospital staffs, and they are very marvelous, wonderful people doing wonderful service. And then may they live long in good health without being affected by this virus. And others who are suffering, having lost their loved ones, and may they understand this Dhamma as it is. Very true they experience as they grieve, and so understand Dhamma and come out of that grief and live very good healthy life, long to practice Dhamma most seriously. And there are many very generous, wonderful people giving all kind of financial supports to various uh, projects to help people to come out of their suffering. May they live long in very good health to understand Dhamma. There are many leaders who have done wonderful service and control the disease in their own organizations, countries and societies. May they continue their wonderful service and live long in good health to continue Dhamma. And there are other leaders who are still trying their way in their own way to support and make decisions. And I hope, we all hope and wish that they have better understanding, wisdom, compassion to make right, very sincere, wise decision to really, sincerely help people. I don't want to wish anybody to have any ulterior personal motive to let this virus spread. And with this wish, I want to end this morning session. And thank you very much for coming and participating in this. Friends, I do all these things for myself, and you do it for yourself. And that is how we all can help each other and ourselves. And also, I want to repeat our vacation from the 17th to 25th. We have our vacation, and today is the 9th. So there will be another, from starting from Wednesday, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 5 days. And after that, we will have our vacation. Thank you.